Welcome to the raw and uncensored Ambitchious Podcast. During our time here together, I will be instilling all of the strength, power, and determination you will need to use the very stones thrown at you to build your ultimate empire. We will redefine the word bitch from the derogatory to the acronym being in total control of herself. So let's adjust our crowns and prepare to live life ambitiously.
Yeah, here I am, the original HBIC, Katie motherfucking Boyd. And on today's episode of this season's Ambitchious Podcast, get your tissues ready because I have mine ready. I hope I don't have to use them, but at the same time, if it happens, it happens. Maybe you guys will know that I'm a real person if I shed a tear. But this podcast is entitled Live Like You Are Dying. And it was totally inspired by the sudden passing of my dad back in October of 2025. And I've wanted to come on here for so long in podcasts. There were so many days where I would open my laptop and I would hook up my microphone and I would try to look somewhat presentable in the midst of all the grief and all the anger and all the different things that I was feeling and going through and navigating. And I just couldn't do it. I just could not do it. And I kept just pushing myself and trying to do it. And it just didn't work. And I had to really take a step back. And for once in a really long time, maybe even my whole entire life, give myself grace and say, you know, Katie, you've never been through the loss of a parent. And this is totally uncharted territory. And it's okay to feel your feelings, and it's okay to go underground a little bit and just lick my wounds and heal and just really focus on supporting my mom. And when I am feeling great and I am feeling good in those moments, right, in between the different stages of grief that you're going through, giving service, giving value, showing up for my amazing clients who, by the way, I want to thank each and every one of them from the bottom of my little black heart, because honestly, I don't know how I got through this, but I did because of so many of you who just gave me grace, sent me love, sent me healing, listened to me, supported me, drove hours to come to my dad's services, took me out to dinner, let me vent, let me cry, let me look like a total bag of smashed assholes with no makeup on, gray hairs growing out of my butt crack, and just sitting on my couch crying, maybe drinking wine. Maybe there's a gummy or two involved in that. And it's just been a roller coaster. As anyone that has gone through the loss of a parent or the loss of someone super close to you knows, it's just no one can prepare you for losing a parent or a loved one that's super close to you, like a husband or a child or a best friend. And I've had a lot of loss in my life, but I've never, ever experienced something like this. So I want to talk to you guys a lot today just about my story, what I have been going through, what I've been navigating, not to use this platform as somewhere to air out my dirty laundry and be in victim mentality and, you know, just show everyone my grief. But my desire for this podcast and this whole entire podcast season, and frankly, the rest of my life, honest to God, I mean that, and you'll understand why by the end of this podcast. But my goal and my desire is to help each and every one of you out there that are dealing with some kind of loss and remind you that life is fleeting. It's ephemeral. You never know when the last day you're going to put your over-the-shoulder boulder holder on. And it's going to be the last time you ever strap those puppies down, and you're going to shuffle off your mortal coil. And none of us know when we're going to go. And like I always talk about mortality, I'm such a stoic. I am all about memento mori, which is a stoic idea about, you know, remember you are human, that you are going to die, and God has gifted you this precious human life, and suck the marrow out of it, make the most out of it. And I hope that this hits. And if it doesn't, if it's not resonating with you, that's okay. I don't come on the podcast to shake my tits and dance for you. I do it obviously for the people who are listening that truly understand that I'm coming here week after week, year after year. You know, we've been podcasting since 2018. It's kind of crazy. And I don't think that I've ever done such an unhinged, raw, real, bold podcast series in my entire life. At least that's my goal, since this is the first one that I've recorded solo. And like I said, I've wanted to do this 1,000 times, and I've just been dragging my labia on the ground, saying, you know, oh God, Katie, just do it. Don't be a puss. Just do it. And I just wasn't motivated, and I wasn't ready, and I wasn't inspired. And I was just like, how can I go out and help all of the women and men from all over the world that listen to this podcast every week, year after year? Like I said, how can I go out there and be so fake and so phony and put on a mask and wear this persona just to do the thing that I said I was going to do, which is, like, you guys know, I always podcast. I never miss. And I do it in series now. I do it 12 weeks at a time, and I take some time off, and I get re-inspired and reinvigorated, and then I go back to it. But missing 6 months is not like me. And the people who stuck around and shared the podcast and listened to the podcast, I had so many people reach out to me. They're like, oh my God, I'm starting your podcast from the beginning, which I think is so smart. And I really, 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 truly appreciate each and every one of you. And my promise is that this is going to be probably acoustic Katie, right? That back in the 90s, I was born in the 80s, and I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s. So, you know, we had like this whole MTV thing back in the day called Unplugged, right? So like, you know, Nirvana would go on there and they would like acoustically sing. And I just feel like that's what I'm going to do here on this podcast for the entire season. And I am going to tell you guys stories that I've never told anyone in my life, other than maybe my husband or my best friend in the world. I am going to give no fucks. I actually am going to not just give no fucks, but I am going to be fuckless. I feel like that is now the energy. That is what we are supposed to be bringing to the table, especially in this new energy that's been ushered in. I want to be fuckless. That's my goal. Not to give no fucks, but to actually be so dry of fucks, to be so out of fucks that you actually are fuckless. So that's my goal for the podcast. And I hope that you appreciate it. And if you don't, that doesn't matter to me, right? Because if you're not here for the right reasons and you don't care about what I'm saying, I want you to go in your bathroom, pour a hot bath, maybe put some salt or some bubble bath, and just lay in that bathtub and touch yourself lightly and go fuck yourself. Because I do not give a fuck. I really don't. And if you see me out and you say hi, just know I love you, but I don't give a fuck. I have been totally ripped apart and just shredded down to like the nuts and the bolts. And that's okay. You know, that is okay. And if you're going through, wherever you live in this world, if you're going through a hard time, if you're going through grief, it doesn't even have to be the loss or grief of a person. It could be the grief of a relationship ending, or it could be the grief of losing a business, right? Or an animal, for God's sakes. Because as you know, my girl Pearl, she's my number one amiga. And I love her more than I love 99.99999% of the humans on this planet. So I know what it's like to lose an animal. I know what it's like to lose grandparents. I know what it's like to lose businesses. And sorry, it's giving Erica Kirk right now. I apologize. But just know that you are not alone, and you don't have to suffer in silence. And there's people out there just like me that you listen to and are inspired by, and you look at me and you're like, Katie's got it all figured out. She just has her shit together. And I have my shit together, and I do have mostly everything right now in my life figured out. But I'm still a human. I'm still made of flesh and bone, and I still get sad, and I still cry, and I still get sick, and I still get angry, and I still revert back to my old programming sometimes. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be a human having a human experience in this 3-dimensional reality, in this thing that we call life. So I hope that you enjoy this podcast. And I just want to thank you for holding space for me for whatever comes out of these two lips, because I don't know what's going to come out. I've written down some notes for myself just so I don't go totally off the reservation. But I want to really, truly speak from my heart. And I'm excited to do it. And it took all this time until today. I'm podcasting on April 1st. So happy New Year. If you know, you know. If you get my email newsletter, you know that you got one today. And it was all about the new year. And maybe that's why I'm here today. Maybe it's my little New Year's resolution. So let me tell you the story. God, where do I start? Start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. Okay, we're going to start there. So my dad has always been such a champion for me. He has always been so proud of me. I know that he always would tell people about me and brag about me, and he always supported me throughout my whole entire life. And if you know my story with my dad, my dad struggled with a lot of demons. He had alcohol and some drug abuse when I was growing up. And I always was angry at him when I was old enough to really understand what a parent is supposed to do. I'm using my quotation fingers if you're not watching on YouTube. I'm supposed to do for their children. And I would watch these other girls that I grew up with and were friends with, and their dad seemed like they just had it all together, which we all know that that's not true. But as I got older, I started to do my healing work, and I started to do inner child healing, and I started to do mortality meditation, and I started to work with different healers and use different modalities. And a lot of the stuff that I did to help heal myself on a deep soul level was to think about my past and to think about my programming from my family of origin, like my mom, my dad, my grandparents, and things like that. And to see where I was programmed in a faulty way, if you will. And a lot of my shit, if you will, that I was doing as an adult, I blamed not just my dad, I blamed my parents for. And I was like, if only you didn't drink when I was growing up, if only you did this, if only you were better at that, if only you gave me more of this, if only you tried harder over here. And you guys know this about me. I hate victim mentality. I hate it. It makes me cringe. It makes my butthole pucker. It makes my pubes turn white. It's just not the vibe. But I started realizing in the last handful of years that I was using my parents not being perfect parents. But by the way, who the fuck is a perfect parent? Okay. I'm a stepmom. I am not a perfect parent. I could tell you stories that would make your toes curl that I've done to my stepdaughter that I don't regret it because I don't like that energy of regret, but I definitely was I could have handled that better. Even though she loves me and we're besties and I adore her and I know how much she loves me. And she'll even say to me sometimes, I'm glad that you treated me that way. I'm glad you said those things to me. I'm glad that you did that to me because it made me strong. It made me powerful. And in a lot of ways, I started realizing that about my mom and dad and my experience with them growing up. And even in my young adulthood, into my adulthood, where I truly believe that everyone here is doing their best at their own level of consciousness. And the tools that I have today and the support that I have today and who I am today is very different than the tools and the support that my mom and dad had growing up. And that being said, I realized, during my healing, and by the way, if you hear some snoring or farting, it's not me, it's Pearl. She's under my podcast table snoring her ass off. So I digress. But I realized that I was using my parents as this scapegoat, as this thing that I could blame all of my shit on. And in my opinion, that is not being ambitious. That is not being the head bitch in charge of your ambitious life. That is not being triumphant. That is not being a warrior. That is not being all the things that I teach and that I preach and that I truly believe in every fiber of my being that I champion and that I stand for. And I started to realize that I was using them as just someone to blame for why I was fucked up, instead of taking radical responsibility for who I am as a human, because it doesn't matter what happened to you when you were younger. It doesn't matter what family dynamic that you have been born into. I write about this in my book. I truly believe that we choose our mother and father. We choose our siblings. We choose all of the good, the bad, and the ugly that's going to happen in our lives so that we can learn and we can evolve and we can use adversity and fear and lack and scarcity and not enoughness and all those negative, low vibrational things to power our purpose. Okay. So you guys picking up what I'm putting down. So when I realized that me blaming my parents for why I was the way I was, I started being like, damn bitch, like you're an imbecile. Like you're telling all of these women and men, but mostly women from all over the world on your app, at your wellness center, your business mentorship programs, your speaking engagements, your retreats, like any of the things that I do, you're telling people like take radical responsibility and step in your power. And it doesn't matter what has happened to you in your life. Like you make your own way and you make your own decisions and you're in charge and take radical responsibility for everything. Because when you do, you truly become unstoppable, untouchable, and you become next level. And I say that about all these different things. I say it about, your spiritual connection, your health and wellness, your environment, your finances, all these things, right? Because whatever you're not changing, you're choosing. But then I started realizing like, damn bitch, like you're doing this with your own mother and father. Like what the actual fuck are you doing? Right? So when I started really taking a step back and I started really looking from the outside in instead of the inside out, I started to realize like, wow, bitch, like you got to change some things. So I started doing a lot of work around inner child healing, but in a very different way. I started doing a lot of work around ancestral healing. I started working with Mark Wolin, who is an author. He wrote a book called It Didn't Start With You. If you have not read that book, please, I implore you, buy it, listen to it, read it. I don't care how you can get your hands on it, but just bring this into your life because it will change your life. I don't care who you are, what you've gone through. It will change your life exponentially when you read this book. And I've read it a million times. I love this book. Okay. So this is where it starts getting like into the nitty gritty of like what actually led up to my dad's passing. So one day I was working in my office and I heard this voice. Because I'm very connected to spirit. I'm very connected to my higher self. It's something that I pride myself in. And I'm always asking my spirit guides and my ancestors and God, right? I always ask them like, please, I am your humble servant. Tell me what to do. Lead me in the right direction, right? I know that my ancestors have prayed over me before I even came to this earth. I know that I am divinely guided. I know I am divinely protected. I understand all those things. But when I heard this voice, it was so real that I had to do the thing that it asked me to do. So I was working in my office and I heard this voice come out of nowhere and it said, you need to re-listen to the book by Mark Wolin. And I was like, why do I need to listen to this stupid book? Like there's no need for it, right? I've read it 1,000 times. Like I understand all the concepts. I get it, right? I've got the t-shirt, mom, over and over and over. I understand the concepts. And I was kind of like fighting with spirit a little bit. And spirit was like, bitch, listen to the damn book again. Read the damn book. I'm like, okay, fine. So I went and I upstairs after, and I started doing stuff upstairs in like the kitchen or whatever. And I was probably cooking something or getting something together in the kitchen. And I put it on my phone because I bought it like a million years ago. And I realized that there was some updates to the book. And I was like, oh, this is very interesting. Maybe this is what I needed to hear. And so I was listening to the book and I was listening to all the new pieces that he had added, and he had added like almost like a workbook section where, if your parents are still alive, you're lucky enough to still have your parents in your life and you can still ask them questions. I want you to ask your parents these questions. Okay, fine. No big deal. So I was driving to the studio one day, and I always call my mom in the morning, and I always call her like after work, or I call her like on the way to my studio, to the way to KBMSC Wellness. So I'm on the phone with my mom and I'm like, hey, like, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Like just small talk, just catching up. And I said to my mom, like, hey, can I ask you a couple questions? And my mom was like, yeah, who cares? Yeah, ask away. So I started telling my mom, like, hey, I started rereading this book, and these are some questions that I wanted to ask you. And I started asking my mom about like her childhood, which, by the way, I'm going to have my mom on the podcast this season, which is going to be so freaking funny. And that's a whole other story for a different day. So we'll get into this on her podcast episode. But I was talking to her about her childhood, and, my mom had a lot of trauma in her childhood. One of the things that happened to her that was so crazy is, when my mom was little, her older half brother was teasing her about something, and they were chasing each other in my grandmother's home. And my grandmother was cooking on the stove. Like she had a big pot of like potatoes, like boiling water, as every Portuguese vovó does, right? They always have something cooking on the stove. And I don't know how it happened because I was obviously not born, but my mom was telling me the story is my grandmother was moving the potatoes from the oven, from the range, to drain it and strain it in the sink. And they were running around my grandmother, and my grandmother lost her footing and dumped the entire, oh my God, this is so crazy just thinking about this, but dumped the entire pot of boiling water all over my mom's head. And my mom ended up having like 3rd-degree burns. She ended up in a burn unit. They had to shave her head. She lost a ton of hair. She was in the hospital for a ton of time. She had to wear wigs till her hair grew back. And it was just, could you even imagine being like a little kid, like 7, 8 years old, and having to go through this, and the trauma that stays with you and is imprinted for the rest of your life. My mom hates candles. She doesn't like heat, like boiling water. I remember even when I was a little kid, my mom would yell at me and my sister for being in the kitchen and just being like jiggity. And I never was like, Jesus God, take a chill pill. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't even know what I would have done if that had happened to me when I was a kid. Like my mom is so strong. Like, can you imagine like going through that and being a little girl and having to go through, being in the hospital and all this stuff. So I'm talking to my mom about this. I'm asking her personal questions about this trauma thing that happened to her. And my dad was sitting next to my mom in the house, and my mom had put me on speakerphone. And I don't know what came over me, but I just said, I knew my dad was obviously listening because we were talking a little bit. And I don't know what came over me, but I said to my dad, I'm like, Dad, it's like you. It's like you with your brother, Steven. And my dad was listening to me, and I was like, think about it. I was like, your brother, Steven, so my uncle Steven, who I never met because he passed away when he was about 19 years old. My uncle Steven was like a badass, it was like the 70s, and he thought he was like Jim Morrison from The Doors, and he had a motorcycle, and pretty much, long story short, he was driving in Taunton, where I'm from in Massachusetts, and hit a pothole on his motorcycle. And he actually had someone on the motorcycle with him, and he was ejected from the motorcycle, and he got thrown off the motorcycle, and he landed chest first onto a fire hydrant and bled to death. I know this is like morbs, but I'm trying to place the breadcrumbs on the path so you understand this whole entire podcast from start to finish and where I'm coming from. So pretty much what happened was my dad was 13, 14 years old. He was the baby. My aunts were older, right? Because there was a pretty big age gap between my eldest aunt, because there's 4 of them, 4 brothers and sisters, 2 girls, 2 boys, from my Nana Pearl and her husband, Francis, Bud. That was his nickname. And then it was my dad. So it was Linda, Patty, Stephen, and my dad, Mike. And so pretty much what happened was, when my grandmother found out that my Uncle Stephen had died in this tragic, horrible way, she pretty much had a nervous breakdown and left the country. My grandmother's from Nova Scotia. She's from a little place in Nova Scotia called Canso. It's like a little tiny town, like a nothing town. It's on the easternmost seaboard of Canada, Nova Scotia. It's actually where the SOS came in from the Titanic when it was going down in 1916, which is kind of weird, whatever. They have like a radio tower there, like a little building. When James Cameron was doing Titanic, he actually wanted to buy it and stuff. It's kind of a cool little place. And my grandmother and all her sisters and brothers pretty much all still lived in that area. And my grandmother just left her children and her husband and had probably what we would call now like a full-blown nervous breakdown. I don't know what they called it back then, but she just left her children, left her husband, went back to Canada for a pretty long time to heal with her family. And because my aunts were a little bit older, they were around, but they weren't around like for a 13-year-old little boy. And my grandfather became an alcoholic and he worked for Raytheon and just pretty much Mad Men himself, right? Like, remember that show Mad Men? Like, that was kind of like the vibe of my grandfather. You know, he was a man's man and he was tough and he played golf and he drank scotch and he was part of the boys club. And I don't think that men back then really knew how to process loss like they do now. And I'm not saying all the men know how to process loss, because there's a lot of fucking dumb motherfucking men out there. Okay. But back in the day, I think it was more of a machismo, very, man's man energy. And there was my poor dad, like left to his own devices to fend for himself. He lost his big brother, who he loved so much, who was an idol for him. And a little background on my dad. My dad was an incredible athlete. He was in the Hall of Fame in his high school. He played professional baseball. He was just incredible, really an amazing athlete. And, he was pretty much at 13, 14 years old, just left to fend for himself. It's like, can you imagine losing your older brother? Your two older sisters are checked out. Your mother leaves you and goes back to her home country. And your dad is just like out playing golf, drinking scotch and doing the thing. And then there's you, all by yourself. And my dad was a freshman and he played varsity, everything, football, basketball, baseball. He was incredible, like I said. And back then, drinking age was 18 years old. And the seniors from his high school that he was friends with, that he played ball with, would come and pick him up and bring him to practice. And, after practice, they would go get fucked up. They would drink. They would probably do some drugs. And knowing what I know now, I think that my dad used substances to numb himself because no one was helping him. No one was giving him the tools to heal and grieve in the proper way. And knowing what I know now, it's like he was probably an addict, not because he wanted to, but because there was no other option. And he probably was in so much anguish and sadness and depression and pain that getting fucked up took the edge off. I mean, I'll be honest, I've done it in my life numerous times when I've had hard things happen to me. And obviously, as I got older and did more of my spiritual work, I learned how to deal with things in a much different way. But, it was totally different times back then in the 70s. So I think that really what happened was my dad just kind of never really got out of that energy. I think that stunted him in a lot of ways with his emotions. He didn't know how to process emotions properly. And I think that when my dad would get sad or overwhelmed or anxious, I think that he would turn to alcohol mostly just to kind of numb out. And so when I was on the phone with my dad and my mom that day, and we were having this conversation about this book by Mark Wolin, It Didn't Start With You, I brought that up to my dad and I said, that must have been really hard. Like, I don't know if I could have dealt with that. And sorry, I'm not sorry. I take back that I said I'm sorry for crying, because I'm not. But see, this is what happens. We're so programmed to say like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to inconvenience you with my tears. But I think about that sometimes and I'm like, wow, like that must have been so hard for you, Dad, And when I said it to him in the way that I said it to him, he said to me, you know what? I haven't thought about that in a really long time. He said, but it really broke my heart. And when he said that, it was like the first time in my life with my dad that I really felt like we got each other. We really got each other. It was like all the anger I had towards him and like all of the ways I just wanted him to not drink and not be the way he was. Like I understood in that moment why he was the way he was. And it was like so beautiful to have that conversation with my dad because it was like in that moment, I just felt like we got each other. And that was something I wanted for so long. So I went to work. I hung up with my mom. I went to work. I had one-on-ones with clients. I had new clients coming in to the studio to work out and to do their meal plan and to get on the program that I offer at KB Embassy Wellness. And I was teaching class around 5:30 at my studio, and I always have my phone on Do Not Disturb because my phone, I play my music on my phone and whatever, and I just don't want to be bothered when I'm working. I don't want to, lose my focus. And my mom and my husband are the only two people that can like break through on my line, like if something, and they know that, right? Like Matt and my mom know, like if anything ever happens and I have it on Do Not Disturb, you can always call me because I will pick up the phone because it breaks through. And I was teaching, and like I said, I have my phone on Do Not Disturb. And I was going from teaching my 5:30 class into my 6:30 one-on-one. And I picked up my phone and I saw like so many missed calls. Like my sister had called me. My niece Ava had called me. My brother-in-law had called me. My mom called me. Like I just saw all of these calls. And when I saw the phone and all those calls, and I love my sister. I just don't have a close relationship with my sister. We're very different. Maybe someday that will be different. But my sister and I don't talk on the phone at all, really. And when I saw that she had called and I saw that my niece called and I saw my brother-in-law called, it was like in that moment, I knew my dad was dead. I don't know how. I can't even explain it, but I knew he was dead. And I just went into this weird mode where I was like, okay, your dad is dead. This is what I was saying in my head. Like, your dad is dead. You have a client. Get your shit together and go do the one-on-one. And I walked in my office and I did that one-on-one the whole time knowing my dad was gone. And I gave that girl a great session. And as soon as I got done with that session, I started calling everyone on my phone, but no one was picking up because I think that they were all at the hospital. And then I finally got my niece on the phone, my niece Ava. And she says, there's a problem with Papa. And this is what happened. And then all of a sudden, when I was on the phone with her, and I was saying to her, okay, Ava, I'm getting in my car right now. I'm coming. And I lived about 2 hours away from where my mom and dad live. And as soon as I said that, my brother-in-law came in the room and had said that my dad was gone. And she was wailing, and I was just like in total shock. And I said to her, okay, I'm on my way. Just wait for me. I'm on my way. And I went downstairs, and my husband was teaching kickboxing because we own a wellness center together. And then he's on the first floor with his martial arts studio, and I'm on the second floor with my all women's wellness center. And I just walked down the hallway, and Matt was fiddling with the music for kickboxing. And he, I came around the corner and he was like, hey, how are you? And I just looked at him and I go, my dad is dead. And he was like, what? What do you mean? And I go, my dad is dead. And I said, I'm going to go pack my bags and I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to go drive down there. And he was like, okay. Well, he was in total shock. So I went upstairs and I started packing up and I was just in total shock. I didn't cry. I didn't feel anything. I was just like totally numb. And I started going down the stairs of my wellness center and my mom called me and she's like, your dad died. And I said, I know, I'm coming right now. And my mother goes, Katie, don't come down here. What's the point? He's gone. What are you going to do? You can't bring him back. Like, she's just like, go home, get some rest, and call me in the morning. And we'll take care of all the arrangements. And I just was like, okay. And I just drove home, and I just pretty much drove home in silence with my mouth down around my tits. I was just like in total numb. I can't even explain it. It was just like, I felt dead at that moment. I literally felt like I was in a dream, like I was in the movie Willy Wonka, like when they're going on that boat down that like canal in that tunnel and all those things are coming at them. And that's literally how I felt. And then like the next day I went down to Taunton to do the service arrangements for my dad's wake and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I went out to dinner that night with my mom and my husband, and we were just all just in shock. I mean, we were literally in shock because it happened so fast. Now, the story of my dad's passing, because so many people are like, how did it happen? You know, people just ask that. So when I got off the phone with my mom and dad, and I had that conversation with him, and I had that moment of clarity, like, wow, like I just had this moment with my dad that I've been literally dreaming about my whole entire life. After my dad had got off the phone with me, he said he had been working in his garden. My dad is an amazing gardener. Like, he's like Victory Garden energy. Okay. I'm like Martha Stewart, but a dude. And he was working in his garden all day, which was one of his like top pleasurable things to do. He loved doing that. He loved doing it with my nephew Brock, and we gardened together at my house all the time when he would come up and visit. And he would bring me, you know, little cups of like seedlings that he started indoors under his grow lights and stuff. And he just loved to garden. So he was in the garden all day, which now makes me so happy that I'm like, he gets to spend his last day on earth doing something that he absolutely loved to do, which is pretty dope, right? So he was like a mess. He was like covered in dirt and stuff, and he was filthy. And he said to my mom, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to have a cup of coffee. And as soon as I'm done, I'm going to come in and shower, and then we can cook. Because my mom that day had made like one of his favorite meals was like stuffed peppers. And my mom makes really good stuffed peppers, and she made him stuffed peppers, and she made him an apple pie. And, you know, they did it together. Like my mom was saying, you know, we peeled the apples together and we did this and that, and we made a pie and blah, blah, blah. And he said, you know, when I have my cup of coffee, I'm going to come in, I'm going to shower, and I cannot wait to eat. I'm so excited to have that meal. And he went outside to have a cup of coffee, and 5 minutes later, he was gone. And my mom told me that, you know, he went outside, and pretty much my mom was inside, and she had this weird feeling, and she got up and she went to go check on my dad, and she couldn't open the door to get outside, which is so crazy to me. And then she started panicking because she thought like something's wrong. And she had my niece, Ava, go outside through the front door and go around and just check on my dad. And when my niece came around the corner, he was already gone. He was just in his chair with his coffee in his hand. The coffee had dumped over, and he's just kind of slumped to the side. And Ava is only this little tiny thing. If you've ever seen my niece, she's a little pipsqueak. She's so small. She's just tiny. And my dad's a big guy. And I don't know how the hell she did it, but she's probably one of the most brave people I've ever met in my entire life. She picked my dad up and put him on the ground and started doing CPR on him right away. And I don't know how she did it. I really just don't know how. I think about it so much, and I just can't believe that she did what she did. But by the grace of God, she did it. And they called 911. And when the ambulance arrived, he had been gone. And they started working on him, and they had brought him to the hospital. And, you know, they had to, because I guess I don't know if this is like all the different states in the country, but you have to work on someone until the doctor calls their death time. So my mom was like, just stop working on him. He's gone. And she kept yelling at the people that came in the ambulance, and they're like, we have to keep going. And I just think about how lucky my dad was to die the way he died, because his last day on earth, he spent it with my mom doing something he loved. He was so excited to have his meal. He worked in his garden all day. He got to be with his grandchildren. And I think what happens is when someone dies suddenly, like my dad did, it's so hard on the family because it's just so abrupt, right? You don't prepare. And I don't think any death is easy. But I think sometimes when you have someone in your life that's terminally ill and you have months maybe, or even a year or so with them to kind of grieve in real time over a span of time, that it can be just a little bit, I don't want to say easier because that's not the word, but it just is more acceptable, I guess, because you know that they're dying. But when you just literally talk to someone on the phone at 3:30 in the afternoon and then it's 5:30 and they're gone, it just is mesmerizing. It's just inconceivable, right? And I'm not going to get into all like the behind the scenes stuff with my family because that is just a whole other story for a different day. But the couple of weeks before, after my dad had passed away, where we were getting him ready and doing his services and doing all that kind of stuff, it was probably like the worst couple of weeks of my entire life. And I've been through some pretty gnarly shit. I wouldn't wish the way I felt on even my worst enemy. I really, truly, truly don't. But when I tell you that I feel now 6 months later and, going through the grieving process and having like so many incredible people support me, people I never even thought would come and support me and, bring me food and send me flowers and just touch base with me and check on me and just even sit with me at my home, or when I was teaching class at the studio, just let me talk about what I was feeling. I mean, it was just such a crazy, horrible time, but it was such a beautiful time at the same, in the same breath. And I feel like my dad's death, I can look back now and say, God, he gave me such a gift. He gave me closure. He gave me something that I had always pined for my entire life, to have this like moment with my dad where we just like understood each other on like a deep soul level. And like I said, it was such a gift. I can say that now, right? Because I've gone through the motions of this. And, it's crazy because I talk to my mom obviously every day on the phone. And the first couple of months, like I was like, wow, we're really doing good. We're doing well. Like we're doing above and beyond. And I was like, wow, we're really doing the most. And it's kind of strange how like lately I've been talking to my mom and it's almost like she's going through the grieving process now. Cause I think a lot of the first couple of months after my dad's passing, he passed away right before Halloween. So we had to do Halloween without him. We had to do Thanksgiving without him. We had to do his birthday in December without him. First Christmas, first New Year, first Valentine's Day, first all these things. I don't even want to think about Father's Day and any of that kind of stuff. Easter's coming up. Like, I feel like we should have had a harder time, but it's almost like we're going through the hard time now because I think we really were all just like rolling on adrenaline, right? So all that being said, I took some notes because like I said, I wanted to stay on point and not get too crazy because I knew this was going to be a little bit of a difficult podcast to get through. I think that's the first time I've ever cried on my podcast, for good reason, obviously. But I took some notes for myself because I truly wanted to let each and every one of you know that sometimes losing someone can be the best lesson that you ever learned. And it can be such a gift if you choose to look at it that way. We all have two choices in life. We have the choice to look at things and say that they're bad and they're horrible and judge them that way. Or we can kind of look at them and say, yes, that was not easy by any means. And I would not wish any of that on my worst enemy. But at the same time, what can I glean from this? What can I learn from this? And it also really deepened my walk with God, where you guys know I'm super spiritual and I grew up Catholic and I love church and I love the ritual of it. And I had left the whole God thing for a really long time. I don't know if it was because I was angry or I was delving a little bit more into, spirituality. But I realized in the last couple of months, like how God in my life has truly helped me in so many ways, especially through this time. And I'm so grateful that I have that relationship with God. And my dad was very spiritual and he was very religious. You know, we went to Catholic school his whole life. My grandmother raised me practically too. And we would go to church every day. I went to Catholic school. It's funny because my dad and all his siblings, me and my sister, and some of my sister's children all went to the same Catholic school. Isn't that crazy? Which is so funny too, because some of the nuns and some of the teachers from our elementary school that my dad, me, my sister, and my nieces and nephews all went to as well. So seeing them at like my dad's services was just so crazy. It was like this full circle moment, you know? One thing that I didn't put on here, and I'm going to just say this. One thing I learned, especially at my dad's wake, and just the social media aspect of someone passing away, is so many people came up to me in that receiving line at my dad's services and said, your dad was amazing. He was this, he was that. He helped my son do this. He helped my child do that. He helped me this way. He did that for me. He did this for me. He was so incredible. He was so this, he was so that. And I wanted to just, by the end of that wake, I just wanted to scream and say, why didn't you fucking tell him this when he was alive? And one of the things that I have been really trying to do since that experience is to be so raw and real and honest and really truly tell people how you feel and tell people how they are and how they make you feel and how much you love them. Because I think that if all those people that came to my dad's services just reached out to him every once in a while and just spoke some victory into him, I don't think that my dad would have had the life experience that he had. It just could have been so much better. So this is not on my list, but this just came to me. I was just thinking about that. And, it's like for me, I'll speak from my own personal experience. I work so fucking hard creating podcasts and always doing incredible coaching work on my app and sending out emails, not even to sell, to give value, to give service, to inspire, to motivate, whatever. And then people read them or they listen to the podcast or they read the copy on the Instagram reel that I post and maybe they like it, maybe they don't. A lot of people don't, even though they'll say, oh, your Instagram reel was so good. And I'm like, well, then like it, bitch, comment, right? But one thing I realize is that like so many people just take what you do as like it's always going to be there. And they never really tell you how much you've impacted them or how your words or your support got them through a difficult time in their lives. And I'm here to tell you, like, we need to do more of that. So if this podcast gives you value and it helps you and it inspires you, share it. Tell me that you loved it. Even if it's just sending me a little email when I send you an email saying that the podcast dropped, or when I post something, like it, share it, comment on it, send people birthday cards, send people just little handwritten letters just for the sake of it, right? Text someone on the phone and just say, I love you so much and you've impacted my life and this is how you did it. Because I think that we think that people just know. They don't. If people knew how much they were loved and how much they were valued, there would not be the suicide rate in the world that there is. There would not be people breaking up families and getting divorced and ending friendships and all these different scenarios because they just feel undervalued. They feel like, what's the point? Why even try? Who even fucking cares? They don't read my Instagram anyways. They don't watch my reels. They don't watch my TikToks. They don't listen to my podcast. They don't read my email newsletters, right? They don't tell their friends about how great I am or whatever. But I'm here to tell you, stop that and start to really say to yourself, if I'm having a bad day, and I say this to myself a lot, like I have so many tools and I have so many people that support me. And if I'm having a bad day and I feel like shit, can you imagine what people having a bad day feel like when they don't have support, when they don't have freedom, when they don't have money, when they don't have loved ones around them, right? So this is not only me telling you to do that, but it's a reminder for me to keep doing that, because that's something I've really, really, really tried to do. Even like last week, one of my good girlfriends, Tanya, shout out to Tanya Russell, I love her. She had a couple of deaths of friends, and I could have just texted her and been like, "Oh, that sucks," but I wanted to do something nice for her. I know she loves flowers, so I sent her a beautiful flower arrangement to her house, and she's like, "You did not have to do that." And I was like, "No, I did," because let me tell you, when my dad passed away, she drove hours, and her husband's a physician, her children are little, she's a full-time mom, and she didn't have the time to do that, but she drove and she supported me, and she sat in my home and brought me food and just listened to me talk and called me every day on the phone just to check in. I will never forget that. I will never forget that till the day I die. And probably even after that, I'll remember. Or my friends, Melissa Hastings and her husband, Kevin, who he just lost his dad only weeks before my dad. And they were just there through everything, dinners and speaking victory. Same thing with my good friends, Kelly and Ed Gallagher. Shout out to all of these people. And obviously I could do a whole podcast just naming all the people that supported me and loved me and reached out to me, but I'm just talking off the top of my head. Like, again, drove to my dad's services and went out of their way and just supported me just so incredibly. And it's like, that people care about you, but you don't really know how much they care until something this shocking happens in your life. And I'm just so grateful. And even the people who I'm not even close to, they may live in another country or they live in, California, sending me flowers and gifts and just little things to cheer me up, sending me voice clips and DMs and all this stuff. Like, it just, guys, we are humans having a human experience. Actually, let me fix that. We are spiritual beings having human experiences, and we're all here at the same time right now on this planet going through it. And we're all just fucking trying our best, man. And we need to give each other more grace. We need to understand that we're all living at our own level of consciousness, and everyone is walking around with unhealed inner children and wounds and trauma and just so much sadness and so much anxiety and so much depression and just wanting to give up, right? And at the end of the day, you guys, we're all just here walking each other home. And some of us are going to go home before the other. But wouldn't it be a different world if we could all just truly show up for each other in the way that we would want someone to show up for us if we were going through the same thing? And this is how I coach. This is how I teach. I always say in the morning, before I get out of bed, I pray. I bless myself and I pray in bed, and I just say, God, I'm your humble servant. I will do your work, and I will do it to the best of my abilities. All I need from you is just to love and support me and just guide me in the right direction, and I will do your work. And I do that every day. And what if we all just woke up like that and we said to ourselves, God, I'm having a really hard day, but someone else is having a harder time. And I'm telling you right now, if you feel anxious, you feel depressed, you feel sad, you feel angry, you feel any low vibrational frequency way, and this is what I do, the best thing to do is to offer someone else help. So even though you're in a place in your life where you need the help, like you could really use the help at that moment, offering someone else help when you're in need is how you pay it forward, and you make a deposit in your spiritual, energetic, universal bank. And when you need that money from that spiritual bank to be pulled out, God's going to do it for you, and he is going to always go ahead and make those crooked places straight. He is always going to watch over you. You are so guided. You are so divinely blessed. You have the blood of the Father running through your veins. How can you not be unstoppable? So I'm going to get into the ways that I have realized that my dad's death gave me all these gifts, and it made me a better person in so many ways, it also made me a bigger see you next Tuesday. I have had to be so ruthless and so raw, and just there's been so much bamboozlement and tomfoolery and fuckery around me swirling for my whole life, but the last 6 months especially. But I truly believe in the depths of my soul that all of these things were placed in my life because it was time for me to shed the old Katie, to let the old Katie die so that the new Katie, the next version of me, the next evolution of me can be born. And I don't know about you, but birth is not comfortable. It doesn't feel good. It's bloody. It's messy. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of screaming. There's a lot of pushing. And in the same vein, the last 6 months have felt like going through the tightest birth canal ever invented on earth. But I feel like I'm so much stronger and I'm so more powerful than I've ever been in my entire life. And you want to know something really crazy? And this is like a non sequitur, but you'll understand what I'm saying when I say it. I've made more money in the last 3 months. So Q1 of 2026, I've made more money in the last 3 months than I did all last year combined. And I do pretty well for myself. And I was thinking the other day, why is that possible? And it was like, oh my God, because my dad's death created so much abrasion and so much pain that it made me look at my life in such a different way. And it reminded me, like, we do not know when the last day we're going to put our pants on. And we don't know the last time we're going to see someone in real life. And at the end of the day, if you truly believe that we are all here walking each other home, and that the only truth of being alive is that you are going to die, you are not going to make it off this earth alive, it makes you feel so fucking free and so dangerous to the point where I just think I'm vibrating at a different frequency. And I think that people who are attempting to work with me or have wanted to always work with me are like even more attracted to my energy, and they don't even know why. They're like, why now? You know, I have had so many discovery calls with potential clients that are like, I've always wanted to work with you, but I don't know why now. Why, like, what has happened that's changed things so deeply? And I know what it is. It's I stood in my power over and over again the last 6 months, no matter what. When I was sad, when I was angry, when I was depressed, when I was just not wanting to even leave the house. I mean, I went back to work 24 hours after my dad passed away. I probably shouldn't have done that. Knowing what I know now, it wasn't healthy for me. But I was like, well, what else is there? I don't know what else to do. What do I do? Like, I've never really had to grieve this type of thing. So here's what I really learned from my dad's passing. And I'm telling you all this in the hopes that it motivates you and inspires you to step into your power. Remember that you are a child of the Most High God. To remember that you're a spiritual being having a human experience and you're not getting off this fucking planet alive. So you might as well just be the most unhinged, deranged, dangerous, baddest bitch that you can be and more. And you know, anyone that doesn't want to hop on your bandwagon can eat shit. That's literally how I feel. Okay. So number one, my dad's death clarified my purpose. I always thought that I knew my purpose. I always thought that I had this just very definite, like, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm bringing to the table. No one can stop me. And when my dad passed away, it just solidified and made me almost triple down, if you will, on what I'm bringing to the table and who I am and what I truly desire and who I desire to go on this journey with me. And I truly believe that loss exposes what really authentically matters in your life. It breaks up your hypnotic rhythm. So you're no longer swirling in this very deep, programming. It shakes you up and it awakens you in a way that you never thought possible. And it kind of like slaps you in the face and snaps you out of the shit that you've just been doing over and over and over again, like Groundhog Day, the movie, right? It also helped me realign my time and how much I value it, because I always say like, oh guys, you can always make more money. You can't make more time. But then I realized like I was spending my precious life force, energy, and my time on shit and people and things and ideas and worries that do not fucking matter ever and never have. But it took my dad passing away to make me step back and go, what the fuck am I doing? Why the fuck do I think that I need to audition for clients to want to work with me when my track record is immaculate and impeccable? They should be crawling on their hands and knees to work with me, right? Or thinking about like my goals and the energy that I was putting towards my goals and making those goals meaningful and purposeful and not just like these arbitrary, like stupid things like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds and I want to, whatever. It just put everything in perspective for me in such a different way. I'm going to be real, and I'm going to do a little bit of podcast about this. For the last almost 2 years, I stepped into a leadership role in a local service club, a women's service club. And I really thought in my heart, like, these women who have been in the service club for 20, 30, 40 years, they're going to really love me and they're going to support me and they're going to see that I'm an amazing leader and that I have their best interest. And I'm going to, bring this club into the next phase of the new reality. And nothing could be further from the truth of that experience. And after a huge upset, and after, by the way, also, I joined this club because I also desire to have like women that are outside of my work and my friends to be able to, help the less fortunate and just have this proximity to these women who cared about helping people. And it's funny because when my dad passed away, and there was like 60 some odd women in this group, but when my dad passed away, everyone that was not brought into that group by me, not like maybe, I'm not going to lie, 2 people out of say 40 people from that club, and I'm the president of the club, didn't even send me a card. Not even a card. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart if you did send me a card and you were one of those 2 people. But I'm like, here I am lighting myself on fire every fucking day and distracting myself from my business and my friendships and my goals and my dreams and my aspirations to be president of this service club because I want to serve and I want to be around women who are like-minded. And to say to myself, wow, bitch, you just wasted almost 2 years of your life trying to change something that will never change, and they don't want change, and frankly, they don't fucking like you. Last January, I was the guest speaker for the club's meeting, and I had all of my Ambitchious books, and I wrote handwritten letters in every book, over 60 some odd books, and packed them in these beautiful bags with beautiful gift paper and schlepped them all into where we have our monthly meetings. And I did this amazing talk about core desired feelings, and I wanted to motivate them and inspire them and help them think outside the box. And then I gave everyone my book as just a little token of appreciation. And did you know that some of these women said that they were disgusted by me giving my book out because I was trying to enrich myself, thinking that I was going to make money off of them? And I'm like, you are not my demographic, honey. 75 to 85-year-old women who walk with a cane or have comorbidities and who don't want to change and probably haven't changed their mindset since the Nixon administration, which was short-lived, as we know. You're not my ideal clients. I did this out of the goodness of my heart. And for you to say that I was trying to enrich myself by giving you a free fucking book, it blows my mind. And I should have freaking known that day that this was not for me, but I was still in, and I'm going to say it, I'm going to expose myself. I was still so deeply entrenched in that people pleasing. Like, look, I'm good enough. Look, aren't I good enough now? Aren't I good enough now? If I do more, if I light myself on fire, if I put kerosene all over my body and fucking burn myself in effigy, am I good enough? And I didn't realize until my dad passed away how much I was wasting my time trying to make people like me and even love me that don't even fucking like themselves. And I'm going to do a whole other podcast about that whole situation because it's going to blow your hair off your head. I could write a book, okay, about this whole experience, but hold that for another podcast. Just wait because it's coming and it's going to be fucking unhinged. And I'm going to expose so much that you didn't even know was happening behind the scenes. But I resigned from the service club and I was so sad to do it. I didn't want to do it, but I was like, you know what? My fucking dad's dead. And I bet there were so many things that he did out of obligation because he felt bad or he wanted to people please or whatever. I'm not doing this anymore. So quitting that was huge, really clarified my priority. And I didn't priorities. And I did not realize how much time and effort I was putting into doing this with the service club. And now it's like, whoa, I can do 10 times the amount of work to actually enrich myself and my business. Okay. Even though y'all thought I was trying to do that before, but I didn't. That was not an enriching. You should go fucking buy a dictionary or maybe learn how to use your fucking laptop and Google it. That's enriching yourself is using people who are your ideal clients and manipulating them to buy from you. That was never, ever. How is giving someone something for free enriching yourself? But I digress. But it really did free up so much precious time that I'm now focusing on helping people, which is so huge. And it feels so good. It feels so good. The second thing that my dad's passing did for me was it sharpened my purpose. You know, honoring someone that you love that you've lost with your life's work, and maybe that's your career, maybe you have a deeper mission. I think that that is one of the best things that we can do. And like I said before, you know, think about you're in this painful place and think about how many other people are in the same painful places, if not worse off than you. And I realized even more that my purpose here on earth is to help as many women awaken to be the HBICs, right? The head bitches in charge or in control of their incredible, precious human lives. And I do that with the 6 life makers, right? I do it with spirituality. I do it with boundaries and feelings and emotions. I do it with health and wellness. I do it with your environment. I do it with relationships, and I do it with financial acumen and teaching. And that's why I do business coaching with women in the service and beauty industry and the wellness industry from all across the globe, because I know what it feels like to have no money. I know what it feels like to not know where your next paycheck is coming, or if you can pay your rent, or if you can pay your car payment, or buy yourself groceries. I've been there, you know, a long time ago, but I've been there. So I understand. And I just am like, okay, this even solidifies my purpose even more, is tripling down on coaching, whether it is on this podcast or in my app or my one-on-one high-touch mentorship container, or it's on retreats, or it's in creating courses with other friends of mine who do the same thing as me, or even making social media content. Whatever it is, it's not to put myself out there in a way where people are like, oh, she's so fancy. It's really now, even more than it's ever been, it's really stepping even deeper into my purpose like I never have before. And I thank my dad for that. So thank you, Dad. The third thing is that I learned is my dad's passing truly accelerated my decision making. I was always very shrewd about making decisions, but now I am even like, it's just cut and fucking dry. My awareness of my fleeting ephemeral mortality is just so in my face now. And you guys know I teach mortality meditation. I write about it in my book. I do it on all my retreats and all of my speaking engagements. I teach it in the app, right? In the Ambitchious app. I do it at events at my wellness center. I have done death meditation so many times that I thought that I was just so okay with death. But it wasn't until my dad passed away that I realized that I am dragging my balls, my big, hairy lady balls, in so many different arenas in my life. And I'm taking way too long to cut people off. I'm taking way too long to tell people to fuck off. I'm taking way too long making discerning decisions that are going to change the trajectory of my life for the better. So I've always been a pretty fearless person, but now I have pretty much gotten rid of all of my fear, and I'm acting faster and quicker and sooner on important decisions and just seizing opportunities and really asking myself, and this has been something I've been really teaching a lot in my coaching, my live coaching sessions on the Ambitchious app. I ask myself, is the thing that I'm about to do, or are the words that I'm about to say, or are the thoughts that I'm about to think, right? Because thoughts, words, and deed create your reality. So are those things that I'm about to do getting me closer to or further away from the person I know that I can be? And if the answer is no, I don't fucking do it. And I'm very open and honest now, saying like, yeah, that doesn't work for me. Yeah, I don't coach people on a Tuesday. I don't do that thing on a Friday. I can't do that. Yeah, I'm not really into that. No, I don't want to eat that. No, I don't want to do that. No, that doesn't sound good to me. Where before I'd be like, oh, okay, like maybe, like, let me think about it. It's like, no, because I may think about it and then I may die the next day. And I just took the last day on earth of my life thinking about something that I just should have said, no, thank you. And you guys know that I always say no is a complete sentence. And I do mean that. And I am really good at it. But it wasn't until my dad's passing that it just got so crystal clear that there are just no, I don't oscillate. I don't waffle. It's just like, this is it, the end, the word of God forever and ever. Amen. Period. The fourth thing that my dad taught me with his passing is how I had to be more empathetic and deeper in my leadership role. I really truly believe that the grief that I've been feeling has expanded my emotional insight. It's improved my relationships with friends and families and colleagues and coworkers and people who, work for me, my employees. I've gotten so much closer to people that I always loved, but I didn't, we're always so busy. We don't have time to have dinner together. We don't have time to talk on the phone. It's so funny. I was talking to my really close friend, Michaela McLean, and she lives in Scotland. So she's 5 hours ahead of me. And I always text her like the night before. And I'm like, hey girl, at 7 a.m., I know that you're free because it's noon in Scotland. If you want to talk to me, I'll be putting on my makeup or I'll be, working out on the treadmill or whatever. And before I'd be like, I don't have time to talk to these people. Like, I love her. She's my friend, but I don't have time to talk. Like now it's like, I have deep conversations with people. I think I talked to her like for 2 hours this morning while I was getting my shit together. And the relationships that I do have with people that I love, I'm telling them how I feel more often. I had to have a lot of really uncomfortable conversations with a lot of people who I truly adore and admire and love, not because I was angry at them, but because in the past, I knew that I would never truly step up and tell them how I really, really, really felt. And I believe that no great friendship, relationship, whatever, can get as deep as we deserve unless you really tell people like, hey, when you said that thing to me, it really hurt my feelings. And when you did that thing, it really made me feel like shit about myself. And I know that no one can make you feel any way you allow them to, but I'm sorry. Like, if you say you're my friend and you're not doing the thing that I need you to do, or you're not showing up for me the way I have showed up for you, like maybe it's time to check our relationship. And I truly believe that people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, right? That old adage. And just because you've been my friend for 10 years doesn't mean that we have to keep being friends. Or maybe you've kind of been like on the periphery of my inner sanctum, and now I'm taking it to the next level with you because I see who you truly are. And I work with my team in a different way now. I feel like I can influence people and speak victory into them in a very different way now. One thing that I will say, and this is just something crazy, is every time I would have a friend who passed, like a parent who passed away or something, I would always reach out to them and like, oh my God, I'm so sorry about your mom. I'm so sorry about your sister or whatever. And I would always say to them, let me know if I can do anything for you. Like, don't hesitate to reach out. Just please let me know. And then when my dad passed away, when people would text me that, or they would say that to me, I would get so fucking angry. And I didn't understand why. And then I started really thinking about it. And I was like, God, like I have so much on my fucking mind right now that I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the attention span. I don't have the brain processing or the cognitive function right now in my grief. Because if you know anything about grief, when you go through a loss like that, it literally shuts very specific, important parts of your brain down so that you can literally get through this time. And so when someone's saying to you, like, let me know if you need anything, I don't even know if I wiped my ass after I took a shit this morning. I can't tell you what I need from you, but it was the people who, like, close friends of mine that just like, hey, one of my girlfriends who I've never even met in real life. Okay. We're like friends on Instagram and we talk every so often, on the phone or, voice clip each other or whatever. Her name is Rena and she lives in Canada. And I know her from Candace Marino because she went to like Candace's Radiant AF retreat like years ago before I even started doing it with her. And she had DM'd me and she's like, hey, what's your address? And I was like, why do you want to know my address? And I told her. And then like 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang and there was this beautiful bag of soup. There was like soup and there was another soup and there was all kinds of goodies in the bag. And she just DM'd me on Instagram and she's like, hey, I just want to let you know that I sent you some soup. I hope you enjoy it. She does not know me from Adam. Okay. She's never met me in real life. She doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. And she went out of her way in her busy day. She's an incredible esthetician in Canada. And she went out of her way to send me soup, but she doesn't fucking know me. I've never done anything for her. She's never done anything for me before that. You know what I mean? Right? But for a total stranger, if you will, to send me soup when it was almost like she knew. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to cook and I don't want to eat any. I don't want to like even think about what to eat because the part of your brain that processes making decisions like totally shuts down. And like, Matt would say to me, hey babe, like what can I get you to eat? Can I go get you I didn't even know what to tell him. Like I hardly ate during the last, I'm going to be honest with you. I hardly still eat. I just don't have an appetite. I don't have any, like when you're like chilling and you're like, oh, I could really go for pizza or really go for a burger. I'd really go for like, roasted chicken or whatever. I don't have that part of my brain hasn't come back online yet. So I'm just kind of like, yeah, like everything is very, yeah. So for someone to understand, like making a decision like that for someone who is going through a loss and going through grief is the best thing that you can do for them. Don't say to them, let me know if you need anything. Send them the flowers. Send them the DoorDash. Send them my girlfriend, Laura Noel. Hi, Laura. She sent me the most beautiful box of chicken soup and it came with a beautiful ladle and rolls and all these things. And I ate that shit like it was going out of style because I didn't want to make a decision for what I wanted to put in my mouth that day. And I remember the company that she sent the soup with is called like Spoonful of Comfort. And I used to always send that to people that I work with when they had a loss. And I would always be like, oh, it's so nice. I hope they really appreciate this. And then for her to do that for me, it was just like, thank you so much. Like my friend Tanya bringing me sushi, we go to this little sushi place down the street from our house, and we both like eat certain rolls or whatever. And the lady that owns it, her and her husband know what like me and Matt love to eat, whatever. And she went in there and she's like, hey, what is Matt and Katie Bay buying? Like, what's their favorite rolls? What's their favorite soup? What's their favorite, meal? And when she brought this meal, I was like, how did you know like all my favorite things? And she goes, I just asked the lady at our little place. And I was like, oh, it was so, and she brought me beautiful flowers. And, my friend Chrissy, who's going to be coming on the podcast, like one night she just stopped at the house with like a big bag from Trader Joe's of all kinds of little doodads and like little snacks and stuff and flowers. And she just sat with me on the couch, and I looked like shit, and I didn't have a stitch of makeup on, and I looked like a grease ball. And my sweatpants, I had worn them for like 3 days. They probably had crusty discharge in the crotch, and like they smelled like farts. And she didn't give a fuck. She was just like, I'm going to sit here and hold space for you. And all these people like did this for me, and not one of them said, let me know what I can do for you. So if public service announcement on the Ambitchious podcast, don't say that to people. When someone dies and someone has a loss, just do the thing and say to yourself, if I was the person going through this thing, what would I want to experience? And if it's a bowl of soup, get them some soup. If it's fucking Taco Bell, send them some damn Taco Bell. If it's a beautiful flower arrangement, send them the damn flower arrangement, right? Send them the card. Send them the voice note, check in on them. I have a friend who sent me one of my business coaching clients, Alexis. She's the owner of Little Fox, this incredible skincare line. And she sent me a whole box of bath products and like a little mask and these little wands, that you can put in the fridge and depuff your eyes. And I'm like, she did not have to do that. She pays me to coach her and to work with her. And there she is sending me like beautiful, beautiful product, and I'm like, you didn't have to do that, but she did it. And she never told me she was doing it. And like, to me, that is just something I'll never forget for the rest of my life. And now when someone is going through something similar that what I just went through, I do the same for them because I know what it feels like to not feel normal and to be more fucked up than a soup sandwich, frankly. The fifth thing that my dad taught me is death truly restores perspective in your life. Compared to loss, especially when you lose a parent or a child or a loved one or a husband or someone that's super duper close to you, compared to that, all these little stupid fucking things that happen all day that we get so flustered about and we get all of our butthole hairs in a twist about, at the end of the day mean nothing. Zero, zip, nada, zilch. They're so stupid and ridiculous. And it just makes all those little setbacks feel so small. And you almost like look back at your life and like laugh. You're like, well, fucking what the fuck was I thinking? Because it's like all this shit at the end of the day doesn't mean anything. All that matters is like how you showed up and who you helped and how deeply you loved and how much joy you had in your life and what you learned. None of this other shit matters. And another thing in that same vein, and I'm not really a procrastinator and I am a perfectionist, but I still will do the thing, right? I want it to be perfect, but I'm also like, done is better than perfect. And I can always go back and fix things and reiterate and like mid-course correct or whatever. But it made me stop procrastinating. Like now I'm just like, do it now. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't put off till tomorrow what you could do today. And I remember my dad always would say, someday I'm going to swim in the Pacific Ocean. That's like one of my dreams is to swim in the Pacific Ocean. And I would always say like, Dad, like, let's go to California. Let's go to here. Let's go there. And he was like, oh, I'll go next year. Oh, we'll go next time. Oh, I don't have time right now. I'm working on this or I'm doing that. Or, I have to be with the kids and whatever. And I would always be like, oh God, now my dad is never going to be able to swim in the Pacific Ocean, and I was talking to my friend Candace, the LA facialist, and I went out after my dad had passed just to get away. And I went out and did some stuff with her, and I was telling her, about what my dad said, and she's like, well, if you get his ashes, bring him out here and we'll go to the beach and we'll put them in the water. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea. But in the same vein, I was like, fuck, like, Dad, the only way that you're swimming in the Pacific Ocean is as ashes. Like, how fucked up is that? So do not put things off. Do not put off telling the person, I love you, or I don't want to be with you anymore, or this isn't working, or let's do more of that, or, what you said hurt me. And don't put off travel. Don't put off launching the business. Don't put off having the baby. Don't put off the wedding. Don't. Because you never know if today's your last day. You do not know. And I really and truly believe, and I've said this on many podcasts, I believe that hell is when you die and God introduces you to the person that you could have been if only you did the thing. If only you made the hard decision. If only you stopped procrastinating. If only you stopped calling yourself a perfectionist. Because procrastination and perfectionism are just another fancy word for I'm afraid. It's like, what are you afraid of? Why are you procrastinating? Are you afraid to go on the plane? Are you afraid that someone's not going to like you? Are you afraid that someone's going to judge you? Because listen, if you're afraid, let's just say for sake of conversation, to make content on social media, because you're like, I don't want people to talk shit and I don't want people to hate on me. If you don't have haters, you're not doing shit. If you don't have people that equally love you and then others that want to punch you in the fucking tits, you are not doing anything that is worthwhile in this world. So do the thing, and who gives a fuck who is judging you? Because mostly the people, if not all the people that are talking shit and judging you, they haven't done shit in their lives. They're fucking losers. They're mediocre motherfuckers. And the only reason that they're on social media or whatever talking shit about you is because they hate themselves so much that they're projecting all of their bullshit onto you. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have never in my life met a hater that has talked shit about me doing better than me. Never, ever, ever. And I think the same about you. So do not procrastinate. Don't make excuses. Just do the thing, because at the end of the day, like I said, you don't know when you're going to shuffle off this mortal coil. Okay, I'm going to take a little break here. And I'm so excited because we have our first Ambitchious Podcast sponsor. Yes, it's official. Our first ever Ambitchious Podcast sponsor and partner is Dr. Sazia Naurin of Numi Aesthetics in Windham, New Hampshire. Dr. Sazia is a board-certified physician who offers a range of services, including injectables and anti-aging treatments, body sculpting, skin rejuvenation, and weight management. She just began offering hormone replacement therapy care for women navigating perimenopause and menopause. Dr. Sazia is incredible. She is my angel. I'm obsessed with her. And what she has done for me over the last year or so that I've been working with her has been just above and beyond. What I love about her is she truly understands every skin type. And she understands where we all are with our age, right? I'm 45 now. My skin is starting to mature. And she just knows how to work with my age and my demographic. And what I love so much about Dr. Sazia, owner of Numi Aesthetics, is she creates personalized plans that improve both appearance and overall well-being of her clients. And I cannot wait for you guys to see what she and I have collaborated on over the last couple of months. We are calling it the Meno Reno. Yes, that's the name of it. And we've been documenting everything. So stay tuned for that, because we're going to do some content around that. We're going to do some YouTube videos. But what I love is with this Meno Reno, she's really addressing, like, me personally, all the things that I have been struggling with. So if you guys didn't know, I don't want to use the word hate, but I'm just going to say it. I hate my neck. I just genetically have a weak chin. Like, I don't have like a really sharp side profile. And even when I get really, really, really thin, like when I was competing in, beauty pageants and things like that in my 20s, I would get down to, 10% body fat, and I still never had like a nice sharp jawline. And right around Thanksgiving, we did this thing called eye laser, which is so incredible. It is rocking my world and so many of my clients' world, where it's a little tiny laser. She numbs you. She makes this little tiny incision. I had my neck done in November, and she goes in there with this laser, and the first round of lasers actually kills the fat, and the second round of laser tightens the skin. And I am obsessed with the results. So stay tuned for that, the results of my eye laser on my neck. But the eye laser can do literally anything. It can do your full face. It can do your underarms, your love handles, your stomach, your thighs, everywhere. And it's so non-invasive. And it's such a great alternative to having, I have friends that are my age that have literally had full facelifts already. And that is just not something that I want to do right now. Maybe down the road, I'm game. I just want to be the hot old lady. Okay. That's just always been one of my dreams. But this is just such a non-invasive way to get such similar results. And I'm obsessed, and I cannot wait to show you all the behind the scenes with the eye laser. And she and I also are tackling together, laxity of my skin, sagging, a little bit of jowling is happening. Like I said, I got my double chin that just like never goes away no matter what. And the eye laser is just such an incredible modality, and no one has this machine anywhere near where I live. And we've also been working on my sun damage from being a tanorexic. Because back in the 90s and the 2000s, if you know, the Playboy bunny sticker that we would wear into the tanning booth. Yeah, well, guess what? All of that, when my mom would say, like, don't go out in the sun, don't go tanning so much. And I'd be like, shut up. Well, guess what? Now it's all the melasma and all the hyperpigmentation is coming home to roost. And I know that every elder millennial, and Gen Xer out there knows what I'm talking about. We're also truly focusing on getting rid of my hyperpigmentation, my skin. I am half Portuguese, so I get hyperpigmented a lot, fine lines and wrinkles. And we've also addressed my weight and my mood that has really, truly hit me with going through my menopause journey for the last couple of years. And she's also helping women in the Meno-Reno with their menopause journey, with their issues that they're dealing with. And like I said, now she's offering hormone replacement therapy at Numi Aesthetics, and that has been such a game changer. And she also offers weight loss medication and peptides, which is so cool. So she and I have been documenting our time together, and I cannot wait for you guys to go on this journey with us, where Dr. Sazia helps me rebuild my self-confidence and self-esteem after honestly losing so much of it during my initial perimenopause journey. And the thing is, guys, is, the last couple of years have been so hard for me. I gained a ton of weight during COVID. I didn't know that at the time, but I was also in my early stages of perimenopause during COVID. And I was just anxious and depressed and overwhelmed. And I just felt so ugly and fat and just gross. And I'm being real with you guys. Dr. Sazia has helped me immensely with that. And I just thank her from the bottom of my heart. She's just one of the most incredible physicians I've ever met in my life. And I work with a plethora of physicians in all different ways, shape, and form because of what I do, especially with KBMFC Wellness and me coaching all the women there. And what's really cool is in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing my first CO2 laser treatment with her. And the last couple of weeks, I've been on a skin lightening lotion called hydroquinone because, like I said, I am Portuguese. So sometimes lasers can hyperpigment. So I've been doing that for the past few weeks just to prepare my skin for my CO2 laser experience. And of course, I love my Botox, got a little filler. She does threading, she does microneedling, she does Toscani facials, and there's just so much more that she offers at Numi. Numi Aesthetics in Windham, New Hampshire is truly a one-stop luxury experience for women who deeply desire to look and feel their best at a time when science and medicine has been telling us for decades that our most vibrant, healthiest, and most beautiful days are behind us. And I know you know what I'm talking about. If you're around my age, the doctors just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, honey. This is just how it is now. You're just going to dry up. Your pussy's going to be like a cat's ass. It's going to be so dry, and you're going to just be a husk, and no one's going to want to have sex with you." And I'm sorry, but I'm still alive, and I don't want to be dry and a husk. And Dr. Sazia has helped me so much with that, and I cannot wait to see what's next. So if you are ready to take preventative care seriously once and for all, I want you guys to reach out to Dr. Sazia. I want you to schedule a totally complimentary consultation. You can do it at Numi Aesthetics. You can also do it virtually, which I think is such a game changer, because if you are not from around here and you're truly looking for someone like her who you can trust, and I will 110% back her up that she is the best that I've ever worked with in my life, I want you to reach out to her and schedule your totally complimentary consultation. And if you mention the Ambitchious Podcast, you're going to get 15% off of your first services with Dr. Sazia at Numi Aesthetics. And if you're my age or you're going through that perimenopause or menopause journey and you say Meno Reno to her, she'll know where you're coming from. And thank you, Dr. Sazia, from the bottom of my heart for believing in me and believing in the Ambitchious Podcast and knowing how much I adore you. And all of my clients go to Dr. Sazia and they are just also seeing such incredible results. So thank you, Dr. Sazia. You are one of a kind. And I'm so blessed to not only be able to work with a doctor of your caliber, but to also have you as one of my soul sisters. So thank you for being the first ever podcast sponsor. And I'm just so looking forward also for Dr. Sazia to come on our podcast this season and talk about our Meno Reno experience and other women's experiences doing this with her as well. So, all right, back to the podcast. The sixth thing that my dad taught me when he passed away and over the last couple months is his death really ignited my urgency and ignited, or maybe reignited, let's say, my focus. I really truly feel like I've always been a huge proponent of like seize the day, right? Carpe diem. One of my favorite movies in the entire world is The Dead Poet Society. If you have not watched that movie, what the fuck are you doing? I don't even care if you're like 20 years and younger. It's one of the most prolific movies, and I think ever. And Robin Williams is so incredible in that movie. Ethan Hawke is in that movie. I mean, there's just like some really cool, incredible old time for me, actors. And they always talked about, carpe diem, seize the day. And I've always been such a huge proponent of that mindset. And I also realized that the momentum that you feel when you really get into that vibrational frequency of like motion creates motion. And like, it's a law of inertia, like, right? Anything that is in motion tends to stay in motion unless it's acted upon by an outside force, right? God, I feel like I'm going back to fucking science class in 8th grade. Anyways, but that truth, momentum, it boosts your productivity and commitment to really doubling down on your highest impact projects. One of the things that I started to do is create a course along with my good friend Courtney and my other good friend Michaela. Michaela is not only a master esthetician, she also is one of the driving forces at Little Fox. And she also is an expert in human design. I met her last year at the Costa Rica retreat with Candice Marino, the Radiant AF retreat. And I've known Courtney for years, also through Candice, which is, I feel like it's like instead of 6 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon, it's 6 degrees of separation to Candice Marino. Shout out to Candice. Hey, girl. But us three are creating this incredible course, which is going to blow away every course out there that caters to people in the beauty and wellness service provider industry. So that means estheticians, hair stylists, lash artists, injectable nurses, doctors that own med spas, personal trainers, coaches, anyone that's like giving a very specific niche type of service. We're creating this incredible course where I can't wait to tell you because they're coming on the podcast this season as well. But it is going to literally knock your socks off. And we've been talking about creating a course for so long. And we just kind of kept like being like, oh, we'll do it next year. Oh, we're too busy. Oh, this is happening. This is happening. And after my dad passed away, I had a meeting with Courtney and Michaela, and actually Candace was on the call too. And I was like, we got to do this. And they were like, okay, let's fucking go. And every week on Thursdays, we make party. That's what we call it. That's our meeting. We make party. And we have this incredible conversation, all three of us, and we create. And we've been not only creating this course, but when we started creating this course, we really asked ourselves, like, what do we want to feel while we're creating this course and while we're actually giving the service with the course itself? Because none of us need the money. None of us need to create anything more than what we've already done in our lives, because all three of us are living to the highest part of our ability in our businesses and our lives. But it was really coming from a place of like, let's just have so much fucking fun doing this. Like, we are creating a retreat for the people in our course next year in Madeira in 2027 in the spring. And when we were talking about it, we're like, okay, what is it going to be? All right. Courtney's like, we're going to have a fucking 90s like house DJ rolling on ecstasy. I mean, we probably won't roll on ecstasy. I've never done it, but whatever. Glow stick, fucking dance party on the roof deck of this incredible club. And we're going to have theme dinners where we dress up like fucking Care Bears, and we're going to have Punky Brewster nights, and we're going to just be like Lisa Frank just puked all over us. And if you don't know who Lisa Frank is, Google that shit. And we're just going to have so much fucking fun, because guess what? At the end of the day, we don't need this, and we don't need the money, and we don't need to create because we're doing it from a place of like, how fun is it to make money and serve and create something from thin air and have our number one core desired feeling and focus during this creation time of this course be about friendship and fun and joy and happiness and laughter and just like being fucking unhinged. Like, I feel like my age of people are really deeply desiring nostalgia. Like, people are wanting to go back to like flip phones. We want to have those moments where we're drinking kamikaze shots and we're dancing on the tables and we're making out with strangers, not me, but and we're just being crazy and young because we've been sold this bill of goods. It's like, well, once you hit a certain age, you got to grow up. And it's like, that is what takes the magic out of our lives. So one of my high impact projects right now is creating, I'm not going to tell you guys the name, but it's going to be fucking amazing. But creating this course with two of my closest friends and women who I adore and admire and love. And we fucking laugh. And it's just so incredible. So that is the sixth thing that my dad really helped me with from his passing. The next thing is number 7. My dad's passing just really fueled my authenticity. And I feel like loss really strips away social masking. It enables you to be bolder. It has you just, and you can't even control it. You just become a more genuine person, both in your relationships with friends and family members, but also with your professional expression, whether you have a business that you're an entrepreneur in or you work or whatever. Like, now I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to that. That doesn't serve me. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't align with my core desired feelings. That just doesn't make me feel the way I want to feel. So no. And I think that it's deepened my relationships because I'm not beating around the bush with the people that I love, but it's also severed relationships that needed to go, that were already like in the death rattle. And then my dad passing away and me just becoming the biggest see you next Tuesday I've ever been in my life. It just parted the Red Seas for me, and it cut the fat. And it really, truly, like, I had a girl that always, this woman that I met one time at a restaurant, very, very nice woman. And I liked her and I wanted to have a relationship with her. And I didn't even want it to be a work relationship. I just was like, oh, she's really cool. She's interesting. I'd like to have her as a friend. I'd like to have cocktails with her, have lunch with her every so often. And she would always reach out to me and be like, hey, when are we going to get together? And I would be like, here's my schedule. Let me know it works. And then she would ghost me for 2 weeks and never get back to me. And I'm like, okay. And then 2 weeks later, she's like, oh my God, shit just got crazy. I want to go hang out with you. What do you have available? And I would give her my schedule over. This was going on for like a year. And when my dad passed away, she had reached out to me because I don't think she knew my dad died. And she did the same thing to me. And I just said to her, like, hey, I've been going back and forth with you for over a year trying to make this relationship something, and it's not going to be something. It's almost like Mean Girls where it's like, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. I felt like our relationship was it was giving fetch from Mean Girls. And I was just like, I think you're a very nice person, but I just don't have time in my life right now to have these like kind of superfluous, like, I don't know, just like ephemeral, like fart in the wind kind of relationships. I have so much in my life that I have to do every day. And I have so many clients to coach and so many responsibilities. Like, this is actually a distraction for me. So I just said, like, don't text me again. And she never did. And I was like, and I'll probably see her out and I'll say hi to her, but I can't be the one always trying to make this thing happen, and it just gave me this permission that I should have just given myself a long time ago, but it gave me permission just to be like, you know what, this isn't for me. Fuck off, And it also shifted my mindset to really say what I mean and mean what I say. So when I speak now, it's coming from a place of just like being mature, not boring and old, but mature, like really understanding life. And just being honest feels good. It really just does, whether people like it or not, because however people take what you say is not a you problem, it's a them problem, and we have to stop making it a us problem because it's not, The next thing is it strengthened my resilience. I always thought I was a very resilient person. And I do believe that I always have been very resilient. I've been through a lot of shit and I've navigated pretty well through it. But I think that, grief builds this endurance and it builds a deeper problem-solving mechanism in your life. And that can translate into your personal relationships, your business relationships. So it's like the things that used to take me out, like they don't even touch me anymore. And to me, that's a fucking win. So thanks, Dad. The next thing is it inspired such creativity in me, and it also sparked this doubling down on legacy building. I write about legacy in my book a lot, and I think legacy is very important. But honoring someone can truly spark new ventures, creating art, or some kind of an initiative that carry the meaning of life forward. For me, it was doing the Menno Reno with Dr. Sazia. It was creating this course with Courtney and Michaela. It was renovating KBMFC Wellness and doing a full reno, turning it into a full wellness space with a 5-person sauna and an aesthetics room with body work and having more events and, putting like a DJ booth in my studio so we can have dance parties and buying beanbag chairs and a popcorn machine and a huge projection screen so that we can have movie nights at my wellness center and really have true community and true female camaraderie and have cocktail parties and just all kinds of fun shit at my studio. But I don't think that if my dad was still here, I don't think that would have even been a thing. It really just made me feel like, you know what, if I'm going to die anyway, I might as well go out with a bang. So what is the alternative? Just being a boring ass bitch? Like, that is not me. It's never been me. I refuse to let it be me, but it really did. When I really started to recover from that deep grief energy, I got very inspired. And now I just want to do more and create more and make more beauty in the world. I want women to walk into my wellness center and be like, fuck, this place is dope. Like, I never want to leave here. And the last thing that my dad gave me from his passing was it motivated me to truly care for myself in every way. And I always did self-care. I always took care of myself. I always worked out. I always ate right. But I think that grief teaches us all that health, you can't buy health, right? Like, I think the Dalai Lama once said, like, the most crazy thing about man is that he trades his health the first part of his life for money, only to trade his money back for his health in the latter part of his life, which I think is so interesting. And when my dad passed away, I really started like just even eating healthier, not drinking as much alcohol, really starting to get super into healing peptides and, you know, working out every day and making it not like a chore, like, oh, I got to work out, but making it like a fun thing. You know, like at my wellness center, we do this thing called the positive protocol, like menopositive, because all the women that come to my studio are about 35 and older. So we're all going through it together and, you know, healing my nervous system. And, you know, even like, I hate to say this, but like, I haven't had a haircut and I haven't got my lashes done and I haven't done any of that stuff. Not because I don't love that stuff, but I just like needed a break from like schlepping from thing to thing to thing. When really for me, yes, I love beauty. I love getting my skin care done. I love getting my hair colored and cut. I love having my lashes done. I love all that stuff. But more importantly, like real health, like mental health, spiritual health, physical health. And you know, one of the things my dad did not do is he did not take good care of himself. You know, he smoked cigarettes. He didn't really care about what he ate, you know, like he ate a lot of sugar. He was a freaking sugar maniac. And I think about that now and I'm like, God, could his death have been prevented? Because he had a heart attack and died instantly. And now we can't go back and say shoulda, coulda, woulda, but I'm still here. My husband's still here. My friends, my family members, my clients, my colleagues, they're all still here. So if I can be the lighthouse and show people like, hey, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just showing you what I do. And like, you can subscribe to it or not, that's fine. But like, even if you don't subscribe to like what I'm doing, maybe you don't really care about the hormone replacement therapy or the peptides or any of that kind of stuff, which is fine. But at least have some kind of health and wellness practice, because I think that we get too hung up on lifespan, like living to like 100 years old or whatever for sake of conversation, but we don't think more about health span, which means like, hey, when I'm 80 years old, I don't want to walk with a walker. I want to be mobile. I want to be able to shake my ass and drop it like it's hot and still work out and still teach and still do the things that I want to do because I've put in the work. As a younger person, as you guys know, I've always worked out. I've always lifted weights. I've always done yoga. I've always done all these things. But now it's even more important the older I get and seeing, you know, how my dad lived and how he died. And I just don't want that for myself, you know? So thank you, Dad, for motivating me even more to triple down on my health and wellness practices and make it the most important thing that I do every day. And I'm 3 days into A28P. So this week I've done a 48-hour fast. I'm doing another 48-hour fast tomorrow. And then I'm doing one meal a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm taking all my peptides. I'm going to be doing a whole podcast about peptides coming this season. And I'm not doing A28P to lose weight. I'm doing it to just clean out my body and upregulate my vibrational frequency so that I can be an even bigger attracting vessel of the right people, the right opportunities, and the right joy that is in alignment with what I truly desire. And I just pray and hope that this podcast today, I know it was long. I've never done a podcast this long in my life, but I mean, I haven't talked to you guys in 6 months and I had a lot of stuff to unload. So I hope that you enjoyed this long format podcast. And to me, it was a pleasure. And I know that I got super emotional, but I'm not going to apologize for it because I'm feeling my feelings and I tell all my clients to feel their feelings and go through it. And so I have to do the same thing. So I cannot wait for this entire podcast season. It's going to be epic and iconic. And I just want to say thank you for sticking with me, for standing by my side, even when I wasn't strong enough to do the podcast and I wasn't in the right mindset to be helping people in this way. But I've done the work over the last 6 months and I've healed so much of myself. And I'm just so grateful for my dad for everything he gave to me. And it's so funny how I appreciate him now more than I ever have, because I just get him now more than I ever have. So if you've gone through loss, I hope that this made you feel some sort of way. And if you are going to go through loss, which it is inevitable, you are going to lose your parents. You are going to lose people that you love. You're going to lose your spouse someday. You're going to lose jobs. You're going to lose opportunities. And that's just part of life. But I think that the more that we step into our power and remember who we are and show up as the most ambitious version of ourselves, the better our life is going to be. And I'm just looking so forward to what's next for Ambitchious, for you, for me. And let's do this together. So if you feel like this podcast can help someone who's going through grief or loss, or you just want to inspire them and motivate them, and you think that I came here and I gave a lot of value and service, please share this with your loved ones, your family members, your coworkers, the cat down the road, whatever you're into. And if you do share it on social media, don't forget to tag me on Facebook and Instagram, because I love to have these conversations with you after the podcast comes out. And I just want to thank you for sharing it. And if you are listening to this on Apple or Spotify, you can go there and give us a 5-star and a written review. And if I see that you did, I'm going to send you out a beautiful box of swag from me to you that has all the Ambitchious logos on it. And we actually just dropped some new swag on the KBMFC website. So go over there and look at what you can buy. And like I said, if you give us a 5-star and written review on any of these podcast platforms, I am more than happy and so grateful to send you out a beautiful box of gifts. And if you're looking to work with Dr. Sazia, go head down to the show notes, and all of her information is going to be down there so you can get into contact with her. And if you would like to work with me in any capacity, whether it's on the Ambitchious app or in my high-touch mentorship program or coming to KBMFC Wellness and seeing what my VIB, Very Important Bitch membership is all about over there, go head on to kbmfc.com, and all you have to do is sign up. There is a questionnaire on there, and once you fill it out, I'll get a notification and I will be into contact with you within 48 hours, and we will schedule your complimentary discovery call to see if it is a fit to work together, or I can put you in the right direction to whatever offering or deliverable that I give in KBMFC or Ambitchious is available and right for you. And I can't believe I'm going to say this. It's been so long, but in the meantime, don't forget to stay ambitious, and I will see you next Tuesday.